If you want to make the most amazing kebabs at your next barbecue, you've tuned into the right video. I'm going to give you some secret tips on how to make sure you make the most amazing kebabs. It starts with your proteins. I suggest more than one protein. I always go with steak, but you can be creative. Come up with whatever you think is best for your group. In this case, I'm going with some prime grade fillets because I want to make sure every bite is perfect, and fillets just provide that tenderness that is unmatched by any other meat. Make sure your meats are fresh, make sure they're high quality, and you can't go wrong. But here's the big secret. Cut them in very similar sizes, and that means the fruits, the vegetables, and the meats. I'm also gonna go with some chicken because that's always great on kebabs. I'm gonna go ahead and cut all the yellow fat off. Now the chicken, you gotta make sure you get them in similar sizes, and that's a lot harder to do. You're gonna have some waste, just be okay with it. Cook that and do something else with it, but don't put it on your kebabs. It'll burn and no one's gonna wanna eat it. Some people only eat a few pieces when they're eating kebabs, and you want every bite to be amazing. Now I'm gonna go with my third protein as a brat because brats are, well, they're hard to mess up and they're delicious. Now that we got our meats all cut up, it's time to move on to the vegetables. So with my steak, I'm gonna go ahead and slice up some white potatoes, some squash, and I'm gonna keep those pieces thick because I want them to cook at the same rate as the steak. That's so important to make sure that you have great kebabs. When you're slicing your peppers up, keep in mind how big the chunks of the protein are gonna be and try to cut the peppers into about the same size. Same thing for your onions. Now this can be a little bit tricky. Now what I do is I like to quarter them, take off the inner pieces because that's about the right size, and then I'll cut them again in half, and then that'll allow me to get even more of the same size. If you've never done pineapple on a grill, man, you have missed out. Let me tell you, include pineapple in your kebabs, always. Same thing with the pineapple. We're gonna cut it in very similar sized chunks as everything else. Now it's time to make some marinades, but not some off-the-shelf store-bought marinades, some special happy marinades. And we're gonna start with our steak. Our steak kebabs are gonna have Worcestershire, some Jameson Stout Edition whiskey, a little bit of grapeseed oil or olive oil, and then lots of black pepper. Gonna go with 1.5 ounces of the whiskey, maybe a little more. Gonna go with 1 ounce of the Worcestershire, 1 ounce of the oil, and then as much pepper as you can stand. Give that a little swirl, pour it in a separate bowl, put it off to the side, just let those flavors come together. Next up is the chicken. We're gonna go with some Terramana tequila, again with some Worcestershire, pineapple juice because it makes everything tender and delicious, and then again some oil. 1.5 ounces of the tequila, maybe a little more. 1 ounce of the Worcestershire, 1 ounce of the pineapple juice. Be careful with this stuff, it's powerful. And 1 ounce of the oil. Give it a swirl, put it in a separate bowl, let those flavors just kind of come together. And last but not least, that's right, our brats. We're gonna go with some Tito's because why not? Then a little garlic, and again with some oil. 1.5 ounces of the vodka, 1.5 ounces of the oil, and then about a little more than a teaspoon of some garlic. Give it a swirl, pour it in a separate bowl, and let those flavors just come together. And there we go. We have our 3 marinades. You know what? I forgot something. Those steak kebabs. What better to go with steak than a little shrimp? Now it's time to put these kebabs together, and we're gonna start with our steak. It doesn't matter how you put them on there typically, just make sure that they're on there nice and firmly and they're not just hanging, because if they're just hanging when you put them on, they're gonna fall off. Now to introduce these guys to the marinades, we're gonna stick them in some plastic bags, and then we're gonna dump the marinades inside the bags. We're gonna try to fold the bag up in such a way that it has the marinades directly in contact with the kebabs. If you guys have a better way of doing this, please leave it down in the comments below. Make sure you put them in the refrigerator, keep them safe, and then we're just gonna flip these bags around once an hour or so for about 3 or 4 hours. I wouldn't leave them in the marinades overnight. If you're not gonna do the barbecue until the next day, wait until the next day to put the marinades in there. You only want about 3 or 4 hours contact time. No kebabs are amazing unless they're cooked over fire. Go ahead and put these kebabs on the Lone Star Santa Maria, and I'm gonna dust them with a little white lightning. If you haven't tried white lightning, I suggest you give it a shot. It just really steps up the flavors. And we're just gonna babysit these guys, stand by the fire, maybe drink a beer, and we're just gonna keep flipping them, turning them, raising them up, raising them down, keeping the fire rolling, just to make sure we get that perfect little kiss of fire. And these kebabs, every one of them is gonna be different. You're gonna have to monitor the temps of the pieces of meat individually. Again, the steak needs to come off at 130, the chicken needs to come off at 170, and the brats need to come off at about 160. The trick is to make sure you keep them just the right distance away from the fire so that you're cooking them, you're getting that smoke on them, maybe just a little bit of char, and that's it. These kebabs are gonna come off one at a time at their own desired time. You have to keep checking them, and they'll tell you when they're done if you just keep checking those temps.
I wish you could smell this. Seriously, the smell is unreal. Now, I hope it tastes anywhere near as good as it smells. And this is, a perfect dish, a perfect thing to cook for a Labor Day or any type of, holiday where you're having family and friends over. You can make this ahead of time, and then all you have to do is just grill it the day of. And it's a crowd pleaser because there's so much variety. And we have some steak, we have some chicken, we have some, in case you want it, we have some brats, and a little bit of everything to mix in with it. And different flavors too, unique flavors that, we created. And it wasn't something out of the bottle, it was something special, something that we just, it wasn't hard, but it was something special. And when you cook with your heart like that, it's gonna come through. So let's go ahead and give these guys a shot. We're gonna start with the steak kebabs first. Start with a piece of shrimp. A little bit of that bourbon flavor coming through. Salt, The salt from the white lightning is coming through. It just has that fiery kiss, just that right amount of flame touching it, and gives it that wonderful flavor. You don't want to, take it too far, because then it, you burn it or make it black. Some people like it like that, but me, I kind of like it just a stage before that, where it's just got that kiss of fire. And now the real deal, the steak. Woo! My goodness. That's really good. It sucked that bourbon flavor right up. A mixture of the bourbon and the Worcestershire. That's good stuff. I ain't gonna make you watch me eat all of it, but let's go ahead and try a piece of sausage and see how it turned out. A little hint of the alcohol, but mainly just the smokiness, a smoky, perfect flavor. I mean, it's hard to mess up a brat. Kind of excited about this pineapple. I love, putting a little bit of color on some pineapple. The steak was the best thing I've had so far, but that pineapple was a close second. I'm telling you, the sweetness, when you put something sweet on the fire, it just caramelizes, and it just, man, it transforms it. It takes it up a whole nother level. Tomatoes are sweet too, and that's why they're a good selection for kebabs like this. Let's try a piece of this chicken with a tomato. Guys, I'm telling you, we take kebabs for granted. Man, you can do some magical stuff with kebabs. Get your kebab supplies and get these on the grill ASAP. You can thank me later. Where's that pineapple at? Oh, there it is. It tastes like a buttery, just perfect pineapple upside down cake. Oh my gosh.